daily wage? Take what is yours and go. What if I wish to give the last one the same as you? Am I not free to do so as I wish with my own money? Are you envious because I am generous? Thus, the last shall be first, and the first shall be last. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
It is good to be with you today. It all started in seminary when I met Father John. You know, he's one of those guys that doesn't really have to study. He just shows up in class once in a while and just made A's all the time. And when I did see Father John, because it wasn't too often, because when I went by his room, it was often empty. I don't know where he was. Maybe with family, maybe down in Portland. I don't know. But it just didn't seem fair. I worked hard in seminary. I was sitting at my desk studying and reading all those things they asked us to read, doing all the little papers. And he'd just show up, here you are, I'm done, and get the A. But it topped off at the airport this past week when I got picked up on Thursday night. He said he'd be out somewhere, and I looked for his old car, because I remember he had a little Toyota, something, I don't know, 2001 or whatever it was. But no. He drives up in a brand new Camry. And then I say, where'd you get this? Oh, someone gave it to me. It's just not fair. My car's as old as I was when I got to seminary. And I got to put duct tape on this and that to keep it going. How come no one gets me a car? I've got twice as many parishioners as he does. And then we get to the game last night. So where'd you get the tickets? Someone gave it to me. It's not fair. I guess you can imagine the people of Matthew's community. Now Matthew had a community like this. Some followers, mostly Jewish Christians. They've been around for a long time. They've studied the Torah. They know the practices of their faith. They've been practicing that a long time. They know how to wash their hands and what to do when and so forth. They've read the scriptures and they're learning more now from Matthew. But then come these Gentiles, these people from another faith. Different ways of believing and different traditions as well. And they eat meat and they do the wrong things. And they don't know the Torah like they did. And so here they are coming in and they're starting to get jealous. And they're starting to grumble. And Matthew remembers this story. The story we read today, this parable. It's only in Matthew's Gospel. It's not in Luke's or John's or Mark's. Because he remembers this story deals with their people. With his people. This sense of grumbling, this sense of discontent, this resentment. Because, hey, they didn't pay the price. They haven't worked as hard as we have. And yet they're getting every privilege that they got. They're getting all the attention that they have worked so hard for. And so Matthew remembers this parable. And he shares it with them to help them to start thinking differently. Because the parable turns everything around. They're all excited. They're thinking, oh, this is for us. This vineyard, we've been out working. And when he got to that part where he says, pay the last first. And they're all thinking, this is great. He's going to show them, he's going to give them more. And when Jesus said, no, the same daily wage, their hearts just went down. But the idea, as Isaiah said it, is we need to think like God thinks. But God thinks so differently than we do. As far as the heavens are above the earth, that's how his thoughts are. But we to raise our own thoughts that same way. To begin thinking as this. Matthew calls us to a discipleship. In fact, the whole Gospel of Matthew all leads up of how to be a disciple. How to truly be a follower of Jesus. How to have a way of life that's different than others because people wrote about their ways of life. History books have it. They love each other, it says. How they take care of one another, it says. And Matthew was encouraging his people people to have this different way of living. This way of living that meant discipleship. To start thinking as God thinks. We're more apt to think the way I used to think of Father John. I'm really glad he's my best friend. I really enjoy him to death. But we have those thoughts once in a while, and we've all had them, haven't we? We're just not quite fair. Someone seems to get all the breaks and we don't. And those kind of thoughts lead to resentment. They lead to that grumbling underneath. The guy that gets the parking space, especially those handicapped people that aren't walking with the cane and yet they're walking right in there like nothing's wrong. How come they get that? But that's that grumbling, that's that resentment, that's that jealousy, and that leads to division and leads to tearing down a community. Matthew knew it 2,000 years ago. We still need to hear it today. Where are our thoughts? Are they like God's? Or are they about ourselves? God doesn't think like we think, which is out of scarcity. We need things. We need more. And so we keep those things to ourselves. No, God thinks out of abundance. All that I have is yours, he says. Remember the story of the prodigal son? The first one comes up, all I got is here, take it. I don't know what you're going to do with it, but go ahead and take it. And even the older son, when he's out there in the fields, when his father's inviting him back in, he says, all I have is yours. And so Christ constantly thinks out of abundance that he has more and more to give. That everything he has is for us. In contrast, where we think, no, I gotta have it, it's for me. I want more. So how do we start thinking this way? How do we start thinking more and more like God thinks? I think number one is to recognize God's generous to us. To truly walk around and enjoy the beauty that's around us. Flowers that are blooming, sky, sorry it's gray. Gray, the rain which we probably need here, because I saw your grass is pretty brown. But all the goodness that he surrounds us with, the people he surrounds us with. And even when we seem to have it bad, to realize how good we got it. To practice giving freely. I mean, I'm not talking about money. When someone comes up and I got to give all my money away. But I'm talking simply as a smile, a nod, a how are you, to a stranger. To giving freely at the line of the grocery when someone's just got 3 items and you got a basket to let them go ahead. But the simple things of giving our love freely to another. And the more we practice this, the more we begin to think like God. And as we think like God, we become truly his disciples. And maybe the third thing is maybe not presume that you are the ones who've been working all your lives. That maybe you have been standing idle in our faith for a while. But God still comes to seek you. He's asking you to work. And he's willing to pay you for his justice. Paul says it in the second reading. To live not for oneself, but to live for God. To live for God every single moment of the day. And we get strength in this. Each time we know. And each time we act out of abundance. Not scarcity, but abundance. For what God has given to us. We are strengthened by this each time we know and hear the simple phrase that Father John says so much here in Oregon, and that I say so much in Arizona. It's 5:30.
And you are